my soul. I'm the most selfish person that I know. Here we go, down the rabbit hole. Got a couple carrots around my neck, self-respect.
And we're live. Welcome back to Masculinity Moguls. It's your boy, the one with the Skarxface, your boy Skarxface. And today we got another special episode. She hit me up. She was like, hey, we need to do an episode on this. And I was like, yes, let's do it, because it was actually some videos that I had been watching as well. But we have the amazing, the beautiful Jackie Baltazar again.
Hi, guys. Welcome back.
Yeah, and this time we were able to hook up her audio. Like, she hooked up her microphone. So hopefully, you know, you guys can get some better audio. Because that was the only complaint. Like, right now it's at, I think it passed a little over 8,000 downloads on Spotify. And so...
love that.
Yeah, so like it did really well. People loved it. The only complaint was the audio. You know, like the content was great. You know, but
Is that your average? Is that your average download?
Yeah,
Or...
it's about, we hit about 6,000 to 7,000 almost on like each episode. This is just...
so we're killing it, even with the audio.
Yeah, so it's doing really well. People loved it, great feedback on it. So I was excited for it. And then when you wanted to do another one, because I think people really love the conversations that we have, because we get a girl's perspective and we also get a guy's perspective. But before we get into that, I just want to touch on a few things. You actually, since the last episode that we did, you got your account back.
I did. Thank you guys so much. Actually, thank you too for your support and for reposting. I did get my account back. I'm so glad.
Yeah, so how was that? Like, I mean, we'll get into the other stuff here in a little bit, but like waking up and seeing that your account was deleted, or not deleted, but suspended or gone.
You know what? It's crazy. Is I woke up that morning and I was like, I know I'm going to hit 250K in the morning. And I did. I woke up to 250K, but I was so busy because I was going to Coachella with my kids that I was like, I don't even have time to like bask in this moment. Like, I got to get our outfits and stuff. And by the time I was going to do a post, it's when it was gone. So by the time I was going to record content for Coachella, it was gone. And I was like, you know what? I am not the type of person that allows like circumstance to change my mood, because some things are just out of our control, you know? And I was like, I could easily let this ruin my moment with my kids and not enjoy myself and just be on my phone trying to figure out how to get my account back, where I can enjoy my kids and enjoy the memory. And I made a new TikTok, and the first video I posted about Coachella with my kids got 1.3 million views.
See, I mean...
So what would have been the point? And then imagine I would have wasted all this time being all sad, all emo, for what? And I got my account back.
Yeah. Which is... I was actually impressed that you did that, because most people, especially an account that size, it would have ruined their entire trip. You know, like they wouldn't have cared. They're more worried about getting their account back, you know, and it probably does suck too. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong. I'm sure.
It definitely does.
I'm sure you didn't wake up and you're like, oh well. And then just like took off.
No, I was like, damn. That's 3 years of work.
Yeah, and so I was glad I saw that you got it back, which I was really glad that you actually did, because you post great content. You know, for those that, I mean, people obviously know what you do already, but you do like a lot of advice as well, lifestyle, like clothing, fashion, and like a little bit of like just a lot of stuff for women, you know. And it's funny because when you post stuff about guys, you get guys in there all like talking shit and like the recent.
That's why we're here.
The recent video that you posted where a man can't afford me if they only work $20 an hour, and which is true. Like $20 an hour is not a lot. You know, it's not a lot.
Yeah, and did you see that there were men in the comments offended? Like, what about love? And I was like, okay, but how do you expect, realistically, like, let's just be honest here. Not having money, even being by yourself as a single person, is stressful, right? Like, if you're worried about how you're going to pay your car payment, you really can't enjoy it. Like, you feel stressed, right? Like, you feel like on edge. So imagine being in a relationship with somebody. The person that you love could easily become your punching bag, because they're your safe place to be vulnerable. So if you're frustrated, you let out all those frustrations about not being able to pay your bills on time or being stressed out about money. And then that affects the relationship regardless. Like, you need money to do things and to survive. And if you don't have it, it adds stress.
It adds stress. And then the relationship, like, now you're trying to put in effort into a relationship while you're stressed. How you're going to pay this, you know, like how you're going to eat. And then someone like yourself who has kids, you know, you can't just like not think about the kids. Like, Is it just you and the other person you're talking to? And yeah, the kids, you know, like
Yeah, dude, it's like it's so much bigger than just like, oh, you know, just making $20 an hour. Like, no, perspective wise, not having money in a relationship affects the relationship. Period.
I think the guys
Like-
that got mad probably do make $20 an hour that were on there, and so they're like, my $20 an hour are fabulous. Okay, like they get me by.
Yeah, and I don't know how, but okay.
Which is crazy because like I remember being at that point a long time ago, you know, like where you're like, oh, like you think you're making it well until like you actually put in the work, start your businesses and do stuff like that. And now you're just like, how did I do that before? Do I want to put myself back in that situation? No, you know, like,
Agreed. But you know what? Perspective too, like $20 an hour is good. Let's say if you're in a roommate situation and you have roommates. If you live at home, then yeah, $20 an hour is like you got some extra change. But the $20 an hour barely pays my rent.
yeah, or to support
Like
a family.
not even
Like,
pays my rent.
yeah, I remember you
Yeah,
said
like-
your rent is like what, 3,500 or something like that, and like
Yeah, with gas, because gas right now for some reason in Cali is expensive, dude. We barely use our gas, and my bill's still $200. So with gas and with electricity for my place is 1,700 square feet. It's 3,500.
yeah, no,
That's not even food. Like that's not even gas. Like nothing. Like gas for your car, insurance. Like nothing. It's just literally a techo. You know?
yeah, and it's funny that you posted that because that comes back to what we're going to talk about here in a little bit, like guys and their toxic ways. But the second thing I also want to touch on before we get on that is that since the last time, you finally started releasing the episodes to your podcast.
Yes.
So take a sip,
did.
right?
Take a sip podcast. I finally did it.
How's that been? Like just the response from people.
I think it's been great. I think that I'm hoping for more. I'm hoping to kind of grow the platforms more. I feel like TikTok is such a great place to grow the podcast itself. But for some reason, I do feel like podcasts get so much more love on TikTok rather than on the podcast, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it's just those brief clips and people are so used to like that engagement. It takes a certain level of person to actually like watch and sit through a full episode. So I'm hoping to just find my audience and I'm hoping that it just serves,
Yeah.
you know, and the first season, learning process.
Yeah, and it takes time too, like learning how to the way you want to format your podcast, learning how to keep the conversation going. I don't know if you guys ever ran into the issue where you're just like, well, I don't know what to talk about, you know, like, and just keeping it engaging, because if you don't keep it interesting, if you don't keep it engaging, people will check out, you know, people will leave, or try to be like, yo, where was that clip that you posted, you know? And I get what you're saying, because TikTok has helped my podcast a lot, but that's because it's all about strategy too, you know?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
You take the clips that you think that are gonna do well, and then all of a sudden people, where can
The
I
ones
find
that hit right here.
Yeah, where can I find the rest of it? Like, oh, it's linked in the bio. Go check it out. You know, which is I always tell people using TikTok is a great leverage tool for anything. Like if you're trying to get listeners to your podcast, but at the end of the day, it's just about keep posting. Like people want to grow big on social media, but they post once every week. You know, like once every.
That's not enough.
No, you got to be constantly posting, because you got to keep letting people know, hey, yo, I'm here. Yo, I'm here.
Yeah, you know what I think is really challenging, or at least what I'm trying to figure out at the moment, is like, do I want a guest all the time? Because I know people watch me, for my content, for what I have to say. And what I struggled with in the first season was sitting down with somebody and it's like it becomes about them and their perspective. But I think people watch the pod for me, you know, and what I have to say. So I think I need to find somebody to just feed off of so that I can continue the conversation and it be my perspective.
So I totally get what you're saying. That's why the majority of my podcasts are by myself, because I don't want it to be guest reliant. When you're guest reliant, then you're like, well, we can't do an episode today because we don't have a guest. You know, like I can't release an episode because I don't have a guest, or we can't record anything. So when you get used to, that was actually something I was gonna mention to you, is you should do more pods by yourself, just because you get.
Yeah, so I didn't do any by myself, just the first one.
Yeah, see, and then you'll be able to just have what you want to talk about. Me, what I do is I'll go and see what a lot of people are talking about, or see which video really popped off. and then focus on that content. You know, focus on making a pod around rosters, about eating boot. Like these are all like videos that did really well. And so I'm like, let me focus in and like explain these more in detail, you know, by myself. You know, I go through the internet, look up, do a little bit of research. And then I've gotten to the point where I can sit here and look at the camera all day and talk to it. You know, it's really not a big deal.
Really?
So
I was going to ask you that next. Like, how do you like
so you have to
sit there and like, hey, so Edgar, X, Y, and Z. Oh, yeah, well, Edgar, X, Y, and Z. You know, like, how do you like keep that going? You know, like, I don't know. I feel like doing a sit down YouTube video is so different than a formatted podcast where you're talking on your own, you know, and like giving your expressed opinions. Cause like, let's say I'm talking about divorce. Like, okay, there's so many things I could say about divorce. And like, at what point, like how long are they when you do it yourself?
I keep them because the best podcast that I do is usually around like 35 minutes to about like 50 minutes. You know, because that's enough time for people to get through a workout, through a drive, through something else. If you make it longer than that, it better be interesting. You know, the one we did was longer than that, and it was, you know, people listened through it. But that's because you have engaging content. But something like that, like by yourself, that way you don't run out of things to say. Because trust me, I've recorded before, and I'm like, damn, I'm only 15 minutes in. You know, and
you're like, it feels like an hour.
Yeah, and so like that's why I have a list. I do a little bit of research right beforehand. That way I can bring some actual facts to the table without me just like here's my opinion, you know, every time. Here's like some actual things. Like the last episode that I did was about love languages, and I really didn't research into it. I know there's a book and everything about it too, but I didn't realize that some of those, I'm like, oh shit, I didn't realize that's kind of me. You know what I mean? Like that's, you know, and people, other guys too. What I realized, the biggest thing I took away from that podcast was one of the big problems I had with an ex, right? So she always wanted to spend time together. Like one of her love languages was quality time.
Quality time.
But I thought quality time for us was like just spending time together. So like when we were working on our phones or laptops in the same room, I thought that was good enough.
That was,
you know, but I didn't realize that, well, on there it says like, you guys hanging out, watching TV without a distraction. And I didn't realize that at that time. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, we're always together. But I didn't realize that it was she wanted more just attention besides us being on a computer, you know. Like, if we're going to watch the show, let's actually sit down and watch the show together instead of me being on my laptop, her being on her phone, or just me on the laptop while she's watching the show or something like that. I was confusing that for that as quality time. Then, you know, I was basically working. I thought I was quality time. I'm just like, well, she shouldn't complain. I'm here, you know, like next to her, working, but I'm here. So I learned a lot.
I know that all too well.
So
that's my love language.
Quality time?
Yeah. So that's I know her feelings because that's the way that I receive love. It's quality time and physical touch. But quality time, it's exactly like that's you did read it wrong.
Yeah.
You know? And of course you didn't know, but I'm just saying, like,
and that's
it's hard to learn somebody.
Yeah, I was glad I did that podcast because hopefully some guys will be able to listen to that and see where they're messing up. You know, kind of like where I messed up. I never act like I'm perfect. I figure out, I'm like, oh, damn, that was a flaw of mine. Oh, shit. Like, I didn't realize that me thinking like that, thinking that was quality time. Because I remember we would have arguments and I would like tell my friends, I was like, bro, like we're just in the same room. Like, and she's getting mad that we're not hanging out, you know.
I hope she watches the episode now.
I don't know. We haven't talked in who knows years. I always talk about it too. Like I block my exes. We're in no contact.
No, yeah, I know.
So
I know, but still, I hope she watches and she's like, finally, you know, like the validation. Like that's what I was trying to tell you.
But I learned. You know what I mean? I could be that guy. Be like, like she didn't know what she was talking about. But no. After doing that podcast, I was like, I fucked up. You know, I fucked up in that area, thinking that I was the right one. I was in the wrong. But it's too late. You know what I mean? That's why in that podcast I mentioned, like if she's complaining. So something that I said on there, if she's complaining about it now, she was thinking about this who knows how long ago. You know, but she just finally brought it to your attention. You know, so it's not like she thought about it yesterday. You know, or it happened yesterday. No, it's happened over a period of time. Because I remember she would always like out of nowhere, she started complaining that she wanted a date night and like all sorts of stuff. And I'm just like, where is this coming out of? Like,
Yeah.
but you start learning, you're like, oh, fuck. Like she saw the difference a long time ago. Finally, she brought it up. I didn't really want to change because I got comfortable of what we were doing.
With the way things were.
Exactly. So that's why I think it's important to, if something's bothering you, bring it up to your person, and then hopefully they can fix it like sooner rather than later, because it's just, I was at a whole different mindset then, and I'm glad
I mean, we learn and we grow, and that's just what it is. Like, we can't get it right. You gotta fuck up some kind of way at some point to get it right.
Yeah.
Like, you just don't know everything off the bat,
And we're not perfect,
So.
like I learned now, it sucks that I had to
No,
put
I
through
am.
that.
Just kidding.
So, I mean, the reason we wanted to do this podcast was because of toxic masculinity. I always say it wrong. So,
yeah. And an experience that I had.
yeah. So I actually wanted to get what you thought it was. Like, when someone says that, what do you
Okay.
think it is?
For me, the way that I define toxic masculinity is just a very toxic mindset of what a man is. Like, I experienced going on somebody else's podcast. Remember, I reached out to you. That's the reason that I reached out to him. So I was invited to somebody's podcast on the premise that we were going to be discussing things. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, we're going to be on a panel. It's going to be great. Like, it's going to be girls' opinions, guys' opinions, whatever. And I was down with that. But I ended up being in a setting where it was what I felt to be toxic masculinity, because it's a man preaching to other men what his demands should be, what his expectations should be, that he should be allowed to cheat because he's a man and he's a provider. And like creating all of these, I guess, rules for what a high value alpha male can do type of vibe. So that's the way that I perceive toxic masculinity, because it was that whole entire conversation of just what men should be entitled to do if they're in shape, if they provide financially, then they have a right to do X, Y,
Yeah.
as opposed to a women. And toxic masculinity also defining women as unpure if they have had multiple sexual partners per se. My comeback to that was like, how would you know? Like, a woman could tell you it's been 2 and it could have been 300.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know. And he's like, a man could tell based on her promiscuity. And I was like, what if the one man she was with was super freaky and taught her like all these crazy things, and it was just one man? Like, how would you know that? You know, like, you wouldn't know that. So like this perception that like women lose their value based on how many people they sleep with and all these things. And I was like, at the end of the day, a woman could tell you that she slept with 30 or that she slept with 2. You really wouldn't really know the truth, and vice versa. You could tell me that you slept with 2, but it's been 30. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I perceive toxic masculinity from my experience. And that's the reason that I reached out to you, because I was like, there's no way that we can allow social media to be taken over by these perceptions of what a man is, these perceptions of a man and what they can do because they're men and providers, if they do provide.
Yeah, and something that you didn't mention right now too is, I think the reason a lot of guys follow this is because I guess he has like 2 girls there that completely agree with everything that he says.
Oh yeah. So he had 2 re-invited guests, right? And they were 2 females. None of them were at my level, and I don't mean like at my level as like in finances or anything like that. I mean in life experience. So I was the only one that had been married. I was the only one that had children. I was the only one that's experienced a lot of things I've experienced, and also in my, I would say now mid-30s, right? I was 34, closer to 35. So mid-30s. And these are younger, impressionable girls. And they are also falling into the toxic masculinity mindset of what they should accept based on how they look, based on, what they bring to the table, that they should set themselves up to expect only this level of a man, because that's where they are. And like, they were entertaining this mindset. So he had those as re-invited guests to reinforce his ideals and tell me that I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Or that I'm less desirable because of baggage, because of being a mother, or because I'm divorced or whatever, or that a man is high value is not going to select me over a woman who's 25 without kids. And And the girls were trying to tell me, like, you're unrealistic. Like, a man is always going to choose the younger girl over you. And I was like, that's funny because all my friends are in my age range, and a lot of them are single too, divorced, etc. They would never date a 25-year-old woman or less seriously because it doesn't align. They have kids. They don't want to have any more kids. You know, there's so many other factors, you know, that play into it. But again, this is what is being told to these men who lack self-esteem on social media. And they're running with it. And they're feeding this guy's ego by saying, oh, yeah, you know, you're right, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, bruh, like, what is going on? And then the girls, too, now the girls are falling for it. I'm like, oh, my God, somebody save the girls.
Do you think they were agreeing with him? Because we had the conversation, you know, off camera. He had just because of a position of power, do you think they were like, oh, he has this many following, I have to do what he says in order to continue to stay in his circle?
I think that they're impressionable young girls, and I think that they want to be in that, like, because they've already made a space for themselves there, they have to be agreeable. That's another thing that he told me. He told me, oh, I could already tell that you're in your masculine energy, and that's why no man's going to want you because you're not agreeable. And I was like, you invited me on this podcast on the premise of having a debate and a discussion about our viewpoints, not for you to press your point on me and tell me that I'm wrong for thinking others you do, you know? So I think because he has them on there because they're agreeable and they feed off of that, you know, because of the following and because of all this, and they feed off that, like, okay, well, this man validates me. He would never date them, you know? He would never do anything further with them, but he uses them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And girls are easily manipulated too.
Yeah, and especially like if they've been through some like past traumas or something like that, they don't have like maybe their where they call home isn't the greatest, you know, so they need some sort of like they want that person there that's gonna make them feel like, oh, trust me, I'm gonna take care of you. But in order for me to take care of you, you have to do these things that I say. Because when you were telling me about that, I was like, what is up with this dude? Like, what, like,
did you look him up?
I didn't look him up because you didn't tell me who he was.
Oh, I totally forgot. Dude.
Yeah,
I should have sent it to you.
I was like,
when you do, you're gonna be like, oh.
Yeah, I was like, maybe she didn't want me to know who it was. That way I can like, because maybe you were hoping the podcast doesn't come out because it hasn't been released, has it?
I don't know. I haven't even paid attention, to be honest. But I think what he does more than anything is he releases it on YouTube and because it's live streamed. And I think what he does is he pulls the clips where he's antagonizing you for views, because the ones that are like on his, that have his perspective are in there feeding his ego. And I called him out on it too. I was like, you brought us on here to feed your ego.
Yeah. Because
we have opposing views.
And I would not be surprised if that podcast ends up being pretty edited. You know what I mean? Like he takes certain parts out, maybe like what you said, maybe it's just because you know how the power of editing right now, you can make something seem completely different now. Like the conversation could have went this way and it went completely, you know, to the left. What I mean by that is like Elon Musk recently did an interview, I think it was with the BBC, only if he could record on his own. He didn't want them to just use their stuff. And trust me, it was a horrible interview because this guy didn't know what he was doing. Like the way Elon was responding to him. But the edited version, completely different. The one that he put out, completely different. It shows
completely different.
Yeah, and so like hopefully he doesn't edit it like that because he seems like the type of guy that will edit the podcast in his favor, meaning like making him seem like in the position of power, like he's right, like you agreeing with him, you're just being like, oh, okay, yeah, like whatever. Maybe none of your responses or anything like that. So based off your vibe with this guy, right? Mm-hmm. Why do you think he's like that? Like, do you think it has something to do with maybe...
That's a really great question.
You know, like, could it be like some sort of trauma? Because like when I was doing research, they're saying like some guys feel like when they're brought up that they're supposed to be like the masculine one, like the powerful one, like the one in control, which is true. We do get brought up like that, meaning like, that's why like this topic is kind of, there's a difference between being toxic and being masculine, you know, to me.
Right.
There's being masculine, be like, hey, this is where we're gonna go out to eat. This is what we're gonna do. Girls like that. Girls like the guy to take charge. But there's also there was that argument on the internet too that I saw. I guess that was being toxic, like telling the girl what she's gonna do, and I'm just like, okay, like how, you know?
I feel like it's always so difficult to have these conversations because everything's so like, oh, but what about this? And what about that? Like, there's always like some combative argument to these topics, you know? It doesn't matter what direction you go in. But I agree with you. Masculinity is taking control, saying, hey, babe, we're going to do this, like X, Y, and Z, you know? And I love that form of, it's a healthy masculinity because it allows me to take a step back and say, okay, my babe's got it, you know? Like, he's got it all figured out. That's great. Being toxic is when you're becoming controlled, when you're overstepping the boundary and you're using your power to manipulate, to control.
Yeah.
That's toxic masculinity, though, I feel like it's such, if a man is fully in his masculine energy, it's such a beautiful thing to witness.
Yeah, because, I mean, it goes back, way back. The man is supposed to be the protector and the provider, right? You know, and how can you, like with some of these people, let's call them woke people, like anything you do, like anything you,
I'm like, you could use this clip.
like anything people do now, like you really be like, oh, well, that's very toxic of you. I'm like, how? You know, because I remember my ex like she liked for me be like, hey, I got you this. I want you to wear this when we go and do this. She loved that. But now people like on the internet were saying you can't tell her what to wear. You know what I mean? Like that's too. So that's why like that's why these conversations are hard because you're like, well, what the hell? Like you want me to get you something to wear, but then like I get you something to wear, and then these people say, why are you telling her what to wear?
Yes, and I hate that part of the internet, and I hate that part of social media. Same thing as what's going on with the whole LGBTQ and pride and like indoctrination of the kids and all that. Like it's the same thing. It's like this new generation and this new wave is so quick to be like, oh well, you're not respecting me or you're not respecting my beliefs or blah blah blah. Like this overly sensitive generation that can't just accept like a little black and white. And it's very obvious when somebody's being disrespectful to you.
Yeah.
It's very obvious when somebody is using their power. It's one thing for you to come home and say, you're going to fucking wear that because I bought it for you.
Yeah.
And it's another to say, look, babe, I bought you this. Like, I have somewhere that I want to take you, and this is what I want you to wear. Like, and people don't, it's like the woke people they don't see that. Like, there's a tone and a context to everything.
Yeah. Do you think this could like come from, because they had a great conversation like that I was watching yesterday, like before we did this, that I kind of mentioned it earlier too. Do you think it's the way certain people are brought up? You know, meaning like if you live in a household with like old school Hispanic parents, like they're the ones in charge, they're the ones of this, you're gonna like you've seen it before, you're gonna stay home and cook, I'm gonna go out and work, and things like that. But do you think it strives from that? But then like nowadays they confuse that for more of like controlling the person that you're with. You know what I mean? Like it's not so much being that protector and provider. Before that's how it used to be, but things change. Like before the guy would go to work, the mom would be a stay-at-home mom, cook, clean. That was just normal. But now you tell a girl now, I want you to stay home and cook and clean. They'll be like, what the fuck? Like, so that's why. Do you think it's like it comes from like how they were brought up?
I think that partially it comes from, obviously, a lot of us, who we become when we get older, stems from what we saw, right? Like a portion of us stems from what we saw. But then another part is like kind of what we experienced growing up as well, like in our outer world, outside of the home too. So like your first girlfriend, things like that, dealing with your own things Because, you know, growing up, especially me in high school, I'm sure for you too, you deal with like all these things, like your hormones are changing, you're trying to figure yourself out, you're starting to have insecurities you didn't have before, you don't know how to regulate. If you weren't taught how to regulate when you were younger, it's really difficult for you to regulate those things, and it comes out in other ways. You know, just like when you're mad at something, and maybe you're not usually snippy with like your mom, but you're having the worst day ever, and then you're snippy with her because you're having the worst day ever. Like all of these outside things tend to affect our framework and how we move later on. However, none of those things are an excuse to continue to be in these like cycles. You know?
Yeah, because
but I do think that partially it does stem from men, and then it's kind of like what happens along the way.
Yeah, and like I get it. I love to be the masculine one. Like you know what I mean? Like, hey, we're gonna go do this, we're gonna go do that. Like if I'm gonna go on a date with somebody and be like, hey, I got reservations here, we're gonna go do this and this. And I've never had the issue where a girl was like, well, I can't choose. You know, I think a girl likes it more when you're like, oh shit, he already made plans, he already made reservations. Like, oh shit, okay.
Dude, did I end up in the group chat like, this man who made plans? Like, okay.
Yeah, and like I feel like that's being like masculine. And I get it. Some people confuse being masculine for like overly controlling, overly like dominant on the person. And so I was watching some clips too, like where a lot of people get it from is they showed this 007 clip from a while back ago. Mm-hmm. He was like, he threw the girl on the floor and he was like wrestling with her, trying to kiss her. Like she was like, no. And then like finally they started kissing. You know, it's like, I think people get it from like things like that, you know, and be like, oh, like, of course she wants it. She's just like acting like she doesn't want it, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Does that make sense? Because I was like, oh shit, that's.
They make their own little story.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, it's not necessary. If a girl told me no, I'd be like, okay. You know, I'd be like, sorry, my bad. Like, I was reading everything wrong. I'm not going to be like, oh, she means yes right now. You know, and like she knows she wants it.
Do people not know how to read the room anymore?
That's what I'm saying. Like,
it's really that simple. It's read the room. If I'm playing with you and I'm like, stop it, like, clearly I don't mean stop it, you know? But if I'm like, stop it, then clearly I mean stop it, you know? Like, read the room. Or people just don't, they lost that.
Yeah, see, and like, fellas, if you guys are listening, like, being masculine is not controlling your girl, is not being over dominant. Like, if they say no, it's not, like some of the videos that I did not too long ago is like there's guys who control the other person's social media. Like if say we're dating, hey, I don't like you being on social media, you're not gonna do this. I don't like it that guys like your post. I don't like it that girls like your post. You know what I mean? Like and things like that. And they
experienced that.
Yeah, seeing like that's overly controlling. I remember this girl popped up out of nowhere on Instagram. I'm like, what the fuck have you been? And I was like, hey, I haven't, like, not in a like flirty way. I was like, where have you been? I haven't seen you in a while. And she was like, oh, my ex made me delete my social media because he just didn't want me to have one. And I'm like, why? You know, I think that comes down to more being insecure with themselves. And there was a guy also having those toxic vibes on one of the posts that I had. He said that controlling their social media and stuff like that is checking your girl. And I was like, that is not checking you. He said I was insecure because I didn't want to check my girl. You know, he's like, so get the fuck out of here with that like nonsense that I was spitting. I was like, no. I was like, there's a difference between.
Where is that comment? I'm like,
yeah, there's a difference between checking somebody and being controlling. I told him, if I'm talking to somebody and I see that she makes a flirtatious comment with somebody, I'd be like, hey, like, I didn't like that you did that. I felt like you were flirting with them. Or like if they told me, I'd be like, oh shit, my bad. That's not how I meant. I was like, that's checking somebody. Controlling them and taking everything away, telling them what they can wear, they can't be on social media, all this other stuff, that's not checking them. That's controlling them. That's being toxic. And he was going through and like commenting on a bunch of people's stuff, saying that they didn't know what they were talking about and so on and so forth. And so it's like things like that. Like people see these type of guys and then they confuse everybody else for it. You know, they confuse. So they think, or I'm assuming, say you deal with this person, right? And then the next person, you might think, oh, is he being toxic towards me? Is he like, so you're on edge after that. So it's really hard because I'm gonna continue being the way I am. Like, I've talked about it on the videos. Like when I'm with somebody, I'm usually the dominant person. You know, I'll pick them up, I'll throw them around, but like not in a bad way. You know, like it's always in a good way. But then I was like, oh shit, do people think that I'm like being toxic? Like kind of like being the dominant one?
I think it's just like an overly sensitive generation. And I think that people should know, like, I just don't get how people don't know what's toxic and what's not toxic.
Yeah.
Like, how do you not know? Like, how can you not differentiate the two actions? And that guy leaving that commentary about like
checking your girl
and checking your girl, like that's toxic. And first of all, women, please, you don't owe a man that you're dating or that's your boyfriend any of those privileges to, like, you know, have access to all your things and tell you what, you know, his opinion on what you can and cannot wear. If you're dating somebody or if you're in a relationship with somebody, I think the safest thing that you can do is allow somebody to give you their feedback, but then you have the ultimate decision to decide, well, I appreciate you telling me that bothers you, but I'm still going to be this way. And then you as the other party get to decide, you know what? I don't think that that's going to work for me. I don't think that I can pursue something further with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we have to be mature.
Yeah, and I always say in my videos, girls don't realize how much power they have over guys. They think they don't. We're usually the ones, most of the time, it should be, trying to get at the girl, you know? Mm-hmm. And so, like, in being realistic, you have way more power, you know, like telling me, no, you can't do this. And I'll be like, well, shit, I like her, so I'm not going to do that, you know? Yeah. Like, I'm trying to get her, like, so I'm not going to do that. She don't like that, you know? But they don't realize, like, don't be afraid to tell somebody, like, hey, like, I don't like that you did that. I don't like that you did that. I'm like, no. Like, if that's how you're going to be, like, this ain't going to work, you know? So that's why I always say, like, you girls have a lot of power over these guys. Like, trust me, if I'm talking to a girl and she's like, hey, I didn't like that you did that, I'd be like, well, shit, I ain't going to do it no more. You know, like.
Yeah, because you want her.
Yeah, like, so I'm gonna be that way. And so I actually had a list. I did some research on different types of or ways people can become toxic, you know, being their toxic vibes. The number one that I have is suppression of emotions. Men are often socialized to repress their emotions, particularly those considered weak or vulnerable, such as sadness or fear. This can lead to emotional isolation and difficulties in forming healthy relationships. So the one I got for this is like, this is true. This happens a lot with guys. Like, we're supposed to be like that macho guy. Like, we're supposed to be that tough guy. So some people confuse that, like, by controlling their girl. Like, oh, I can control my girl. You know, like, I can, you know, I'm the one in charge. Like, because I've seen it time and time again, like, where the guy is like, hey, yeah, I'll go do this. And I'm like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, hey, babe, can you go and do this for me? Like, a whole different vibe, you know, compared to saying like, hey, go do that. I was like, damn, that's how you talk to your girl, bro? Like that right there, you see, like, where people can start learning what's the difference between, like, being toxic and just being masculine. Be like, hey, like, can you go do this for me, babe? But that's, a lot of guys do things because doing it the other way is not cool. Mm-hmm. Doing cute things for a girl is not cool. That's not masculine. You know, like, I did a recent video where I went to go send a postcard to a girl, right? Like, I'm like, I'm sure she's going to like it. Write her a cute note, send it, like, in the mail. Don't tell her it's coming. And all of a sudden, like, when she gets her mail, there's a postcard there with a cute note. She's going to love it. And
fuck yeah. I would be like, oh my God.
Yeah. And then some guys were like, oh, that's like almost making it seem like I was a pussy. You know, but there's some guys would be like, oh shit, I can't seem like a pussy. You know, like, so I'm going to be like, hey, I ain't going to do that. That's not cool. You see, like, where these differences start coming in?
I get it. Don't you think that stems from, like, childhood? I feel like, especially in our community, in the Hispanic community, I feel like from the very beginning, in a lot of the lower income homes, in Hispanic households and median income homes. I feel like a lot of these ideals stem from those times because, like, let's say the father was absent in the home, and a big mistake that I feel women make when they have sons. I have sons myself. I feel like a big mistake that women make when they have sons is if the father is absent, they tell the oldest or the boys, like, oh, you're the man of the house. And that's already setting the stage for failure for your sons because they're not the man of the house. They're children, and they need to be children, and they need to understand their position in the home as a child, not the man of the house.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that all these things stem from that place that they feel the necessity to grow up, the necessity to be in control, the necessity to have power. And they start to get all this power at such a young age. Kids don't know what to do with power. Shit, there's adults that get a lot of power that don't know what to do with power.
Yeah.
So imagine a child being told that they're the man of the house and a mother reinforcing that because there's no father in the home. And then they don't know what to do with all this power, you know? And then they feel like, okay, I have to be a man. So now I can't have feelings. Now I can't say certain things because you've placed this responsibility on a child and they're just a child. I remember when my ex-husband moved out, my oldest was like, oh, I guess I'll just be the man of the house now. Like he said something like that. And he was probably like 8 at the time. And I said, absolutely not. Absolutely not. You are a child.
Yeah.
You are no man of nobody's house. Just because there's not a man present here, you are not a man. You are a child. And it has to be clearly defined because we place like these responsibilities and roles on kids that are not meant for them. And I feel like it starts from there. It starts to stem from there, that they feel in control. Where I've even witnessed at older age, like these boys that were taught those things then end up like telling their moms what to do and shit when they're older. And it's like, excuse me? Absolutely not. And I think also too, the ideas of like suppressing your emotions when you're a little boy and you're told like, oh, stop being a baby or grow up or whatever, like, and not having conversations about feelings, open conversations about feelings is also where a lot of this stems from. Again, not an excuse. It's our responsibility to fix it. But I feel like that's kind of the starting point.
Yeah,
you know?
And another thing, I feel like it starts with the kid because I remember when I was younger, you start talking to a girl or anything like that, and your uncles and like friends start capping on you because they're like, oh, he likes a girl. So now like we don't want to do these cool things or like these cute things for a girl because now it's
that
not
you actually feel when you're a kid.
Exactly.
You feel this like tender love because you're so innocent.
Yeah, so I remember exactly. There was this girl that I liked. I think I was in like elementary going to middle school, and like she had given me a kiss, right? And I was like, oh shit, she likes me, right? But then everybody found out that she was giving me a kiss, and trust me, like the friends were making fun of me, like uncles were they're like, oh, he has a, like almost like kind of like joking with you instead of being like, oh shit, that's pretty cool that you have feelings towards a girl. Hopefully you treat her nice. Hopefully you're respectful to her. But instead we're just like, oh shit, I'm not gonna
bragging on you.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do none of this cute stuff because this cute stuff is not cool to them. So I'm gonna hide that stuff. I'm not gonna do that stuff. Hell no. Like get made fun of for doing something for a girl. You know, because I remember I would do some stuff in middle school, or not middle school, for high school. And the people that I had around me at the time, they're like, dude, you're fucking lame. Like, why are you doing something like that? I was just like, because it's cool. Like, she liked it, you know, and they're like almost calling me like a pussy, you know, and things like that. Because,
and then you end up pushing your actual natural feelings away and you're suppressing those good feelings and you can no longer be yourself.
Yeah.
You want to be loving. You want to be this cute person because innately we're kids, we're innocent. And we have all this innocence, and then somebody makes fun of you, and it kind of like, oh, shoot, it suppresses your real emotion, and it makes you hide the person that you want to be.
So I think, like, I mean, I'm no parent, but, like, with my nephews, I'll definitely be like, hey, that's cool that you like a girl. You know, hopefully you're treating her with respect. Because I remember how it felt, like, being made fun of for trying to do something cool. For, you know what I mean? Now I that's all I try to push is like, hey, do cool stuff. I always say it's so much cooler to do 100 little things for somebody than one big thing and then think that's gonna like be okay for a while, you know? I'd rather do 100 little things that's gonna take time and effort, and it doesn't even have to cost you that much, you know, compared to you get her an iPhone, like say an Apple Watch, right? Okay, cool. That was one day, but the next day you're still an asshole. You know, like it didn't do anything. She was happy for one day,
Yeah.
but you know, you didn't fix your shit. So I think like it could be around there, like where, especially parents, like guys, it's big with guys, like making fun of, not making fun of them, but like kind of joking around. Oh, he likes a girl. Oh, he likes a girl. Cause then now, like you said, they're innocent. They don't know what's right and wrong. They just expressing how they feel towards the person. But now, since they express how they felt, they're getting made fun of. Now they're just like, yeah, so that's not cool. You know, I'm not gonna do that because I'm gonna get made fun of.
Yeah, I definitely reinforce. I mean, I don't know what happens in the other households because we're a 2-parent household, but I definitely like to reinforce those emotions on my kids when they have them. And I like to have conversations about feelings with my kids because I feel like it's important for them to be expressive so that they feel safe enough to express. Because again, I feel like boys definitely I have 2 sons and I have a daughter. Maybe some of you guys didn't know that. And my daughter, any emotion, she's quick to let it out. She's a girl, you know, and she feels safe to just like let out any emotion. But my boys, I noticed when we were transitioning to 2-parent households that they would like scream in frustration because they couldn't get their emotion out. You know, like their emotion was trapped inside and they didn't know how to like process it. It took me some time, but I'm finally at a place where we can have a conversation. So if they mess up or whatever, I get eye level and we talk. And I'm like, hey, what's good? Like, tell me what you're having here. I'm just frustrated. Okay, if you need to be frustrated, go to your room, be frustrated, let it out. And when you come out, we'll talk about it, you know? And then they'll come out like, ready to talk. So I'm like, okay, let's talk, you know? And then we'll talk about that emotion that they had trapped. But imagine if I didn't open that opportunity for them to have that emotion be let out, how much they're going to suppress. And they're just going to walk through life with all of these suppressed emotions and all these bottled up angers and probably resentment towards women because I am a woman and I didn't open a safe place for them to talk to. And I'm supposed to be the safest place. I'm their mom. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I like to reinforce all those, like, what somebody would call simp behavior with my boys. Like my oldest, well, my middle child, he's a romantic. Oh, he's like, every second he's kissing me, he's like, oh, I just love you so much. And he's just a romantic. But my oldest, he's a little bit more like reserved. And he recently expressed to me that he liked a girl in his class. And I was like, you want to go get her some chocolates, my boy? Like, you want to go get her something, you know? Like, he's like, oh, you're being weird. And I was like, no, dude, like, girls love this. If you get snacks, if anybody buys me snacks, I'm game. And he was like, oh, I guess we could go to Five Below, you know, and like, or whatever. And we didn't end up going for one reason or another. And by the next week, he's like, my friend embarrassed me, told me that I liked her, and she stopped talking to me. And I was like, well, good thing we didn't buy candy, my boy, you know? And I was like, you want to go buy candy so we can get her? He's like, no, I'm embarrassed now. I was like, all right, you know, but you got to reinforce and that behavior, that love. Like, they need to feel like they can be that way.
And especially, like, when they're younger too, like, you can't stop their feelings. Like, if they feel a certain way to a person, you can't be like, you're too young for that. Well, why is he feeling it if he's too young? Like, you can't control those emotions. Like, if I'm attracted to somebody, you can't be like, don't be attracted to her. Okay, not attracted to her anymore. Yeah. You know, like, that's not how it works. I remember, like, there was another girl that I kind of liked. I remember it was in elementary. And like we would always like kind of I would leave her like notes and stuff like that. But then as soon as people found out, as soon as these friends that you have find out, oh my god, like that's be like, oh, he likes it. He has like at the time it was cooties. I don't know if you ever went through that stage. Like,
yes, dude. Come on, I'm from your side.
I know that's what cooties are. I don't know how Cali was though. That's
circle, dot. Yeah. Now I got my cooties on. Yeah.
Yeah. See, and like now I'm just like, fuck. You know, like I can't like this girl. I can't express these feelings. So you start suppressing that. And people, they're like, oh, that was when you were a kid. No, but these behaviors get conditioned to later on to the point where doing stuff like that is not cool. You know, it's not cool because now inside you feel like I'm going to get made fun of. Somebody's going to say something. I'm going to look like that simp. I'm going to look like that weak to other males. Like, you know, because at the end, like a lot of people want to be that alpha strong male. Like, oh, like I don't need that. Like everybody, that's why Andrew Tate did so well. Because he was like that the top G, like everybody wanted to be with him because he could control girls and so on and so forth. So they thought that was like that was what you're supposed to be, which is not. Like some of his things that he talked about in length, I get it. But the way he like said some of the stuff, I'm like, bro, you didn't need to say it like that. Like but I understand they call it the Andrew Tate model. Like it got him views. It made him the most Googled person in the world. Like it made him a lot of money. So I get like what he was trying to do, but I was like, you could have took a different path, my boy. Like it didn't have to be like that. So, but people get confused like with these emotions. So I like what you're doing, giving, that's where it starts, I think. Cause people always ask me in these questions too, is like, where do they get the safe space to talk to somebody? I was like, it's really hard. Like there's no book that tells you, hey, do A, B, and C and D will happen, right? No, it's like it takes time to open up to somebody or someone to open up to you. But if you can normalize that when they're younger, then they'll talk more, So like, just be conscious. Like when you have, like, if they have an issue, be open to talk to them. So like, I know my nephew, the older one, he's been having some issues. So I tell him, I'm like, hey, if you have issues with your mom or your dad, like, I'm not here to be like that guy, like to discipline you or anything. Like, call me. Like, I'll talk to you. Like, if there's any issues going on, like, you have my number. You can call me. You can talk to me about anything, because I didn't have that growing up. Hispanic, being brought up with the Hispanic parents is more of just like, don't cry, don't cry, don't show emotion and stuff like that. So you're just like, all right, cool. And I remember breaking down several times when my ex finally got me to open up. I was like, where are all these tears coming from? Like, I didn't know what the fuck was happening. I was like, what the fuck is happening to me? Like, are all these emotions coming from? But people don't realize that you just like suppress it, even though it's still bugging you. Like, just because you suppress it doesn't mean it doesn't bug you anymore. So, and then that can lead to behaviors like being toxic, being controlling, being stuff like that because of past traumas,
I think it's also important to know, at least for women, that if you are with somebody and you're in a serious relationship and they've never been vulnerable with you, like a man has never been vulnerable with you, and he doesn't feel safe to be vulnerable with you, then maybe you should exit out of that relationship. Because if he doesn't feel safe to be vulnerable with you, then you guys aren't going to get very far because he's always going to have that barrier. A man will naturally release and let go and like feel safe and vulnerable when he's with a right person for that time or whatever. Because they don't just do it with anybody. I know that you could probably meet 20 girls and maybe one might get the sensitive, actual, real side of you, like the vulnerable side, because only one of them will make you feel safe. And it's not about what she says. It's not about what she does. It's literally just the actual person. Just like if you meet somebody and you vibe or you don't vibe, it's one or the other. And I don't think that women should stay in like relationships either that where a man hasn't expressed any vulnerability.
I didn't even think about that
because he's just holding on to everything.
Yeah. Because I remember
you're going to be the punching bag for that.
I had a girl that I talked to before, and she was trying to get me to talk about like certain things. Hold on, freaking camera. She was trying to get me to talk about certain things, but I was just like, I didn't want to. You know what I mean? Like I didn't want to. I didn't feel comfortable talking to her about it. But that relationship ended up not working. She was like, she would ask me certain things and I'll be like, I really don't want to talk about it. Maybe later on, because also at the same time, I'm not going to express all like my issues that I have to somebody that I barely even know, because you're like, what if this person is going to go and like tell everybody like my issues?
And I get that, but I'm saying like, like when somebody makes you feel safe.
Yeah.
I could literally sit next to you, maybe not you, but just in general, I could sit next to somebody and they might feel safer telling me a bajillion things than they feel with the next person.
Yeah.
And it's nothing about what I said or anything. It's just, there's a connection there. And like, if a man doesn't feel safe enough in your presence to be vulnerable, then you guys shouldn't be together because he's just a ticking time bomb.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is going to be suppressed. And when things start to come up and start to come out, he's not going to express emotion. He's going to explode.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Now, like I said, I didn't even think about that until you brought it up. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
there was only one person that I would express to, and we ended up being together the longest. The other ones,
Because you felt safe.
yeah, the other ones were like more like 90-day trials and 30-day trial, you know, things like that. So
testing out the subscription.
yeah, that's watch. They're gonna. So I had like some of these things that I talk about. I had an ex hit me up. She's like, "Why are you talking about it?" I was like, "Did I say your name?" And she's like, "No." I'm like,
"Oh God."
I was like, "Why are you
Not
making
the self-righteousness?
why are you making a fake profile to message me and things like that?" So. So the number 2 one that I have here is aggression and violence. The expectation for men to be strong and dominant can contribute to aggressive and violent behavior, as it means asserting power, control, and can manifest physical, verbal, or sexual violence. And this is also true in some. I've seen it too, like those guys that feel like they got to be fighting everybody because, I mean, I've seen it a lot with they call it little man syndrome. Because they're smaller, so they feel like they gotta fight, they gotta be powerful in order to, you know, assert dominance of the alpha male, you know. But what they don't realize is that bleeds over to relationships too, you know, like trying to be that person. Or even if they're shorter, I know this. It was back in Mexico. This guy was like super aggressive with everybody. And now that I think about it, you could tell that he was being like that because just because he was shorter than his girl, he wanted to seem like he was still powerful, like he was still like in control, you know, just because he was shorter. Trust me, he was like this tall and his girl was like way taller than him. But like things like that, people don't see like things like that. Instead of that guy just focusing, you know, like I remember also trying to like be that, oh, I gotta be the man. Like I gotta be like, everyone sees me, they gotta be like, yo, that's the top guy right there, you know. But
it's all hormones, though. I wouldn't excuse you now because now you're old and grown.
Yeah.
But like in your early, you know, late teens, early 20s, like it's like you're trying to figure it out. You know, you're trying to like figure out how to use this energy in a productive way, and you don't really know how. You know, now you're a grown ass man, and you were acting like crazy like that. I'm like, But you know, back then I get it. Like you're trying to figure out how to use this energy and this excess testosterone productively.
Yeah.
And this is another reason why I believe that people shouldn't really date seriously or get into serious relationships until they're like in their late 20s, because men are trying to figure out what to do with this energy and women are trying to figure out how to love themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, you're still trying to figure yourself out. Like even to this day, like I still get I'm like, okay, I kind of know what I want, you know, like you have your head on a little bit like straighter. But before I'm like, what the fuck was I doing? You know, like.
Yeah, and you don't know how to regulate.
No.
Yeah.
Like you don't know what you're doing. So I get it. I did start, I didn't date during high school, like a serious relationship or anything like that, because as soon as I cut weight, you know, like I was that guy, you know, I was that guy, like,
yeah.
You know, I was like, they don't know me at this school, so like they don't know that I got a girl over here, so I'm gonna go over there too, you know, and things like that. That's how I was in high school. Not proud of it.
Right.
And so, but then after high school, that's when I got my first serious relationship, and I didn't know, like, you're still, like you said, you're still trying to figure yourself out. You got a lot of shit going on, and I think that was another factor of why that relationship didn't work out, because once you start realizing how you actually are, we actually became like two different people, you know, like I wanted more of this, she wanted more of this, you know, I didn't really want to continue the path that we were going. Like I wanted to do something else. Like that wasn't me. Like I was only doing it because it was in the, like, that's what we were doing at the time, you know?
Yeah.
And so I totally get that. And I, hopefully my little brother doesn't listen to this one. So
you're like,
yeah, because I remember,
like, hey, could you skip 15 minutes?
I remember my little brother after his first breakup in high school, he was destroyed. You know what I mean? I'm like, bro, you are, I think at the time he was like 15 or 16. I was like, trust me, life is not over. You have just not even like scraped the beginning of life. And I was like, trust me, later on, I should bring it up to him. I should share this clip and be like, Cause now he's talking to someone now, you know, he's doing great. He's all buff and swole, freaking tall as
It's
hell.
because he has those innocent emotions, you know, those innocent emotions when he was 15 that they were like so pure, you know?
Yeah.
It's before you're hardened by the world, you know?
Yeah, and then like
Pobrecito.
so like I can see like he's in the process of figuring himself out. Like I can see it in him. Like I know he wants to do something great, but he's still trying to like balance of being a young adult, trying to figure out what he wants. Because I was in the same situation. Like you think you know what you want, but then like things happen, stuff changes, and you're like, well, originally I wanted that, but now all of a sudden shit happens. You know, things change, and so yeah, I mean he's kind of dating now. I just told him to, you know, just before he got talking to this girl, I was like, yo, just focus on you, man. Like I was like, if you can take like a few years and just focus on you, I was like, trust me, you can change your life completely. Because that's what I did after my last relationship. It's been like 2.5 years since I actually had someone as a girlfriend. But during those 2.5 years, I locked in and I focused, you know, and everything changed. And that's why I'm saying.
And that's so powerful.
Yeah, and like that's why I'm like, just take a little bit of time. Like, of course, it would have been cool to have somebody like that you can like call, let's go hang out and things like that. Trust me, like it's cool to have somebody like that. But I was like, I just need to focus on me. Like, let me focus. Originally, it was probably only supposed to be like 6 to a year, but then you just get so used to not dealing with BS and just like locking in and focusing on you. And I tell people, I'm like, trust me, it's a game changer. Like,
yeah, then you don't see anything on the outside. You're just kind of like, eh.
Yeah, like, and you're just like, and then it helps you with like relationships too. Like if you do start talking to somebody and they do something shady, you're like, yeah, no, red flag. I'm done. I'm gone. It's so easy. It's so easier to kick them to the curb than if like, or you're like, no, I kind of really like this person. You know, I'm so used to being by myself. I'm just like, yeah, no, not dealing with that. And because that happened one time, like some girl gave me some shady vibes. And I was like, well, I don't like feeling like this feeling right here that I have right now. I don't like it.
It don't feel right.
I'm out. And she was like, just like that. I'm like, just like that. And then that's how
I'm the same.
Well, because you get to a point where you're just like, I'm not gonna deal with this BS anymore.
Hell no, dude. I'm the same. I'm like, oh God, I'd rather just not. It's hot girl summer.
That and like, that's what I loved about. Because at times it did get. I wouldn't act like I didn't get lonely sometimes. Because you're just like, oh, you see all these people going out to do stuff, and you're just like sitting here stuck by yourself.
And they have a partner to do it.
And they have a partner to do something with. But then it helped you like deal with a lot less BS. Meaning like now I see some people and I'm like, damn, you deal with that? Fuck that. You know, like I would not deal with that. Like I would be so easy to check out. Like give me a red flag, like, and I'm gone. Like give me a red flag.
Hey, you go into it waiting for the red flag. You're like, I'm waiting.
Yeah, no, It's funny because I'm straight up too. Like whenever I'm talking to somebody, be like, "You give me red flags, I'm out." Like, I know you're a catch. I always tell them, "I know you're a catch. You're beautiful, so on and so forth." I'm a catch too. I know what I bring to the table and stuff like that. I was like, so if you want to bring red flags to me and stuff like that, I'm out. Like I ain't got time for that shit.
No.
All right, so
I agree.
Let's get into the next one. So this one's hyper masculinity. Toxic masculinity often promotes exaggerated sense of masculinity, emphasizing traits like physical strength, sexual conquest, dominance. This can create an unhealthy competition among men and perpetuate a view of gender relations. And I can see this. You know what I mean? Like, I think this is why, another reason why guys cheat or try to seek out other people is because they want to, it's always that wanting to be cool to other guys, like wanting to seem like the alpha male to other guys. And they think that comes from talking to multiple girls, hooking up with multiple girls. Because trust me, when I had my rosters, I was like, yo, check out, like, I'm talking to all these girls and like, I'm feeling like I'm that top dog guy, you know? But really, like, you're not doing anything for you. I think it's actually doing more harm to you because, I mean, you're hurting a lot of people at that time.
Right. So I don't know if do you have a lot of male viewers on your podcast or a lot of male viewers? I know you have a female audience, but is there any males? I would like to say that there's nothing more attractive to a woman like myself, like a woman. I'm not a little girl. Like I'm a woman to the T. And there's nothing more attractive than a man who has self-control and discipline and doesn't have the necessity to talk to multiple people at once. They don't need to feed their ego or gain their validation from that. Because what it tells me is that you have some sort of insecurity that you're feeding or that ego that you're feeding rather than you pouring that energy into yourself. You're looking for other people to pour that into you, you know? And that's essentially what it is. And so there's nothing more attractive than a man who has that self-control. And again, it's that toxic masculinity, that toxic masculine mindset that is teaching men or men use as an excuse to entertain multiple women. Like, this is what makes you a man. The testosterone and spreading your seed is what makes you a man. And that's not what makes you a man. What makes you a man is being that leader, being that provider, being that protector, having the self-control, having discipline, and loving the person that you're with, or if you're not even with the person, pouring that into yourself, you know, and then pouring that into somebody who is deserving of your values. That's the most attractive thing in a man.
And I'm glad you brought that up.
But we're talking about a man, not a little boy.
I'm glad you brought that up because what I came to realize, and fellas, trust me, it's okay. Like, when you focus all your time and energy on one person, that type of person you're gonna get, like, is completely different. You know, like when you focus all your time and like pay attention to this person, treat her like a queen, and so on and so forth. Like, the type of person you get back from them is crazy. Like, you're like, damn, like, this girl's awesome. Like, and then trust me, it also unlocks a whole another side of her. Like, when you're being intimate too. You know, like, because like the energy is just different. That's why I always try to, like, after I did that, like, focused all my energy into one person, I was like, this is actually pretty cool. Like, it's not, I thought before, like, talking to all these girls was the cool thing. You know, talking to all these people was the cool thing. Showing up to different places with a different girl was the cool thing, you know, and be like, oh, dang, weren't you like so-and-so last time? You know, like, I thought that was the cool thing. But what actually brings me joy and like fulfillment is focusing on one person, which I never thought I would say. Like, you go back to 21-year-old Edgar, he's not gonna say that, you know,
because you don't know yourself. So
no,
again, we excuse all of you in your early 20s. This is grown folk talk, you know. This is not this ain't for the birds. Like, if you're in the birds era, you're still in the birds era, and you're just gonna have to work your way past it. Because it's impossible. It's impossible in your 20s. Like,
that's why I always tell people, they're like, oh, I'm this age and they're this age. I'm like, well, think about it. How were you, like, at that age that you're trying to date? Like, were you in the mindset that you're in right now? Or were you in, like, I'm here to focus on multiple girls, like, so on and so forth? Like, if this guy is 21 and this girl is 35, right? Do you think he's not gonna want to go out, hang out with his boys, party, go see like what girls he can pull and stuff like that? I'm like, trust me, I was 21. Like, I know how that was. Like, I'm like, hell yeah, like, I'm gonna go and like go to the club or something and see what girls I can get. Like,
whatever's clever.
Yeah, like, cause
whatever's clever.
At that age, like you said, you have a bunch of testosterone going on. Like, you want to like talk to multiple people. That's why I always say, like, think about how you were during that time. Like, did you like the guys that during that time? Like, were they someone that you wanted to date? I want somebody that's a little bit more mature, you know, has their shit together, meaning like knows what they want in life, like likes to experience life. Because there's some people who say like to experience life and they don't. They just like to stay at home and watch Netflix all day. And like, that's not me, you know. I'm more like, let's get outside and do something, you know, let's go do something. Like this past weekend, I usually say I don't drink, but on special occasions, like I go out and drink, and let's just say I got pretty lit, you know, like it sucked. It sucked the next morning because I lost my phone. I was trying to track that down. Like, that fucking sucked. So
love those times. Those are the best times.
It was fun. And the way I found it was funny because luckily I have two phones. And so,
same.
What sucked is they're just like, call the Uber. And I'm like, well, the phone that I had, the Uber app is on that, like, that's the phone. And they're like, oh, just log on to it on your other phone. I log on, it says, please confirm like your email, which is on the other phone. And so I'm like, fuck, like none of this stuff is working. And luckily I was able to, this phone is connected with the same Apple ID. I was able to get on to find my iPhone, and I saw where it was at, and I went there, and it was an apartment complex. And I'm like, oh, fuck. And here I go. It was the 7th door I knocked on, and I was just like, hey. And the guy's like, Uber? And I'm like, yes. And he's like, I have your phone. I didn't really remember what he looked like. I just knew it was a male. Like from that, I was like, I need to find it's a guy that was driving us last night. I was like, it's a guy.
Yeah.
I don't remember what he looked like. That was the problem. I was like, what did he drive? Like, what was it? You know, it was one of those nights.
Love those nights.
It was fun. It was fun. You know, luckily I didn't get hungover. That was a good thing. All right. So the next one that we have here is homophobia, transphobia, toxic masculinity is often associated with rigid gender norms and the fear of intolerance of anything perceived of feminine or non-conforming. This can lead to discrimination, prejudice, violence against individuals who do not conform to traditional gender expectations. Now, this one's difficult because everyone has their own opinion on,
yes.
You know, I've never had issues with any, like whatever you want to, like whatever you identify as, like whatever you do, cool. I'm not here to be the person like, hey, don't like push your things on me. You know, I have friends who are trans. I have friends who are gay, you know, bi, and so on and so forth. Do I treat them any differently? No, just as long as you don't cross the lines with me, you know, like because you know what I mean. Like I'm not gay. Don't try to kiss me, you know, like.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that.
Go ahead.
I had somebody who tried to kiss me, you know, and it just doesn't fly. I was like, bro, I like girls. Like you can't force me to like you. Like she turns me on. You don't, you know, like
you don't.
I was like, what do you want me to do? You know, but I get it. Some people like they take that to another level, right? Like I know somebody, I'm not gonna say who it is, super homophobe, like doesn't want nothing to do with. You bring up gay, you bring up trans, you bring up anything, and he's just like, what? No, like don't, hell no, like get that shit away from me. And so on and so forth, and kind of almost treats them as another, like not even a person, you know. So this one's is kind of hard depending on what you. I just say like if that's what they want to believe in, cool. Like if that's what you want to do, more power to you. Does it affect me? No. Like you doing whatever you do, it doesn't affect me at all.
So I too also think that this particular angle of toxic masculinity is hard to discuss. Because I do feel like, obviously, number one, I'm not a man, you know, as far as this, in regards to this. That's number one. Number two, though, I feel like, again, in Hispanic households and in low-income households and neighborhoods, I do feel that just as many men as little girls or little boys have experienced, like, sexual trauma, and in private spaces that they were never allowed to like disclose.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of that trauma or what they may witness is also affecting or making them be toxic masculine men.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I feel like this is such a very, very triggering subject and a very triggering topic. And I really don't know what way to like word it, because I just feel like sometimes there have been men that have been violated, and because there's such a stigma, they don't speak about it. You know, even what's his name, Terry Crews, didn't he get like
as soon as he brought it
ran
up,
through the mud?
Oh yeah,
for talking about his assault because he was such a big man. You know what I mean? And like people were like, how the fuck, you know? And it's like, I feel like men can experience this, and maybe that's another reason why they have like homophobia or they have these things. Or on the flip side, they maybe experimented more with men and are ashamed and like they hide that side.
So they want to come off like super homophobic.
Yeah, because of those traumas. So I feel like this one it just could go so many different ways, and I couldn't really like, in my loving perspective and in my loving side, I couldn't really like point fingers at a man for this topic.
Yeah.
You know, if they experience like toxic masculinity that stemmed from this.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and if this is an issue for them, you know, that's why talk to somebody. You know, that's why people are professionals in like counseling, like therapy and stuff like that, because this is what they do. And it's funny, I did an episode on that, and I'm like, people will like, it's okay. It's not okay to pay somebody to listen to. They're like, oh, they're paid to listen to you. Yeah, because they're taking up time out of their day to listen to your problems and try to help you with the problem. Of course, they want to get paid. Like they have bills, they have people to feed, they need to eat and stuff. Like they have a lifestyle they want to continue. Of course, the same way you pay for like a gym, like all this other stuff, like you pay them, you know, like there's nothing wrong with paying. Especially, I would rather pay somebody because you're going to get someone who's actually trying to help. You try to talk to a friend. Yeah, trust me, friends, they'll help you every now and then. But there's some of them, they're just like, hey, it's okay. You'll get over it. And that didn't help me, you know, like that didn't help me at all. But if you go and express your problems to somebody that you're paying, they're going to be like, all right, this is what we got to do. These are the steps we got to take in order for you to get better. You know, it's a whole different conversation. Yeah. That's why I'm like, don't ever be ashamed to pay for some mental health help. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. I pay for it. Yeah, see, there's nothing wrong with it at all. I like how a lot of people are starting to normalize that, especially like Charlemagne the God that's on the Breakfast Club and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. He's like, hell yeah, I pay for therapy. He's like, everybody should. Everybody needs somebody to talk to. And I'm like, that's great, because talking to people around you, yes, they'll help you to a certain point, but they're not going to sit there and just like completely dissect what's wrong with you and try to figure you out. They're more that, yeah, I'll be an ear for you, talk to you for a little bit, but then, all right, cool, I got to go and do my things again. But, you know, hopefully you get better. You know, that's basically how, what I would get from like friend. I'm not saying they're bad friends.
A friend conversation.
Yeah. Like, I'm not saying they're bad friends at all. I'm just saying they're not there for that. They're there to like try to help you and be there for you when they can be, but they got a life. They got things they're dealing with, you know? So instead, just go pay somebody. Like if you're going through some issues, especially like if something happened to you in the past, you know, it's actually worse trying to keep all that stuff in, you know, than going to talk to somebody. And especially guys is too not manly to go and talk to somebody about your feelings. And I get it. Trust me, I was there for the longest time until I actually started talking to people that want to help you. Like just where you can get like mindset wise, like it's a whole different level. Like the things that you suppress are not there anymore. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like you feel lighter too. It's weird. It's a weird.
Everybody like I feel like therapy is such a saving grace for anybody. Like it really allows you to process things, and they help you. Like they help you get that shit out. Like if you've been struggling to get some shit out, I promise you, the right therapist will get it out.
They'll get it out,
and then they give you tools to process. You know,
and then you'll realize that all these feelings will come out of that you didn't realize that you had bottled up.
Yes.
Because like I said, I have had help, and I didn't realize that a lot of things were bugging me, you know? And then the way it comes out, you're just like, what the fuck is going on with me? Like, you know what I mean? But
you think you're losing your shit.
Yeah, you're like, what the fuck? Like, why am I crying like this? Like, what the hell is happening?
You're all sobbing like a baby, and they're like rocking back and forth.
Yeah, and you're like...
And it's true. It's true. You don't know where it comes from, and it just starts coming out.
Yeah, and I was... Because the first time that happened was with an ex. She finally got me to open up. And I was, like I said, I was like, where in the fuck are all these tears coming from? Like, like in my head, I'm thinking at the same time, I'm like, what the fuck is going on with me? I was like, where is this all coming from? I don't even know where it's coming from. Like a few seconds ago, I was like, hell no, like I really don't want to talk about it, you know? And then all of a sudden, like, as soon as I started talking about it, it just like everything came out.
The waterworks. Yeah, definitely go out there and get help. Don't be afraid.
So this is the last one that I really wanted to get to, because this one is, I'll get into it.
All right, run it.
This one is about objectification of women. Toxic masculinity can contribute to objectifying and devaluation of a woman, viewing them as primarily as a sexual subject and reinforcing their gender inequalities. Now, I get it. We talked about it earlier. about being masculine and being not the control, be like the dominant one. You know, I've always been like that dominant person. Like, we're gonna do this. Like, let's go do this. Let's go do this. You know, that's just how I am. Hey, I'm gonna come pick you up. You know, because I feel like that's what the guy is supposed to do. Come pick you up, drop you off, make sure you're safe, make sure nothing happens to you, pay for the bill. Cool, I got it. You know, like, that's all, like, I feel. And then, like, I feel like some guys take that and, like, they feel like they're supposed to control the woman. Like, they're supposed to be dominating them in the wrong way. Like, kind of like, hey, don't look over there. Because I'm sure you've seen it. Like, there's some guys who get upset at their girl for looking at a guy that was passing by, you know, or a guy liking their post, a guy commenting on their stuff. Like, there's all this stuff that they feel like they want to control them. Kind of like the guy that said that, no, there's a difference between controlling and checking them. Like, no, that's not checking your girl, you know. And then also, I get it. Like, some girls like to be dominated when you're being intimate with them, but you should be able to read that room too. You know, it's kind of like you said earlier, be like, oh, like playing around, stop is different than like, yo, like, stop it. Like, no, I don't want this, you know. But some people, like that clip that I saw, I was like, oh shit, they were showing this on movies before. It was like that 007 one where like he's basically pinning her to the ground and she's like, no. And then like they ended up making out and they probably did something after that. But, you know, so I feel like a lot of guys are confusing being the dominant one, not controlling. Like, I've never felt like I've controlled a girl, like saying like, hey, you can't have a social media. Hey, you can't do this. Hey, you can't do that. You can't go hang out with your friends. I've actually been the opposite. And some people think that that's weird. Like, I remember when I was dating my ex, she was like, oh, hey, I'm going to go hang out with my friends and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, shit, okay. And she'd be like, what do you think of this outfit? Revealing and everything like that. I was like, oh, shit, you look sexy. Cool. You know, like, go for it. Because I knew she was with me, you know. And then some guys were like, dude, your girl was out there, like her titty showing and everything, you know, because like she was wearing like a low cut like shirt and stuff like that. I'm like, so I'm always.
So you don't. Yeah.
I've always been.
Go ahead,
I've always been the guy like that tells people, I'd rather have whoever I'm with out feeling sexy and confident than someone that's like, oh, I can't. I want someone who's sexy and confident. That's what I want. Like, I don't want somebody. So if dressing like that is gonna make you feel sexy and confident, like, go for it. You know. That's why I would, like, do you believe in plastic surgery? If it's gonna make you feel sexy and confident, yeah, go for it. Like, I don't care. Like, I just want you to be sexy and confident. I don't want you to be like, oh, like, not that confident person and stuff like that. So that's what I tell them. I'm like, she felt sexy and confident in that dress. Let her wear the dress. Like, I know she's with me. Like, yeah, I'm at the time I was sitting playing video games. I know she's gonna come home to me. Like, what the fuck? Like, why are you tripping about my girl going out looking sexy with her friends? Like, how is that a problem to you?
Don't you think that the toxic masculinity in this aspect stems from a seated insecurity in the man?
Yeah. Oh yeah, most definitely.
Because I can give you two scenarios. So when I was married, my ex-husband, it's when I had a business. So I never had social media for myself per se. I had social media for my businesses, right? Because obviously I'm selling clothes. So I had social media for my businesses. And here and there, I would like post a picture in my outfit because since people knew I was a business owner, it made the most sales when I was wearing something, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember vividly that I posted something and I was like, oh, you didn't like my picture. And I saw him like scroll past it. And I was like, you didn't like my picture. And he's like, why would I? Why do I need to give you that attention when you got all these people on the internet giving you that attention?
Yeah.
Okay. So then on the flip side, when I dated my ex-boyfriend, my most recent ex-boyfriend, he was the opposite. He was like you said, like the same, like, Chula, wear this, wear that, like, oh, that looks hot, like you was banging like this, like you should wear this, or I think it's sexier like that. Two different worlds. And I think it all came from their own insecurities, not what their own insecurities about the relationship, their self-insecurity.
Yeah.
Their lack of security in themselves as men, you know, not my ex-boyfriend, but my ex-husband per se, like his lack of self-love for himself, that security, he didn't have it because how is it that the one person that I want attention from is the one that's not going to give it to me.
Yeah.
Because the internet is validating me or giving me this validation. And I'm like, dude, this is my job. Like, this is what I do this is how I this is how I pay my half.
Yeah.
My 50-50 fucking bills. Like, bitch, how do you think? Like, this is what I need to do, you know? But it's like, I remember how vividly that hurt my feelings because I was like, what the hell? But now I realize that had nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
Whether it's me or the next girl, it was going to be the same for all of us because it has something to do with him, not with me, with him, not with the relationship, with him. I remember another time vividly where I started going to the gym after my last kid, and I was using that machine where you do the butterflies, like for your inner thighs. And I was wearing black leggings, and I had a flannel that was like over my like area right here. And I posted, and my following is girls. You know this.
Yeah.
Like, it's obvious my following is girls. You could go to my comments, and maybe every 10th post there'll be a guy that comments. You know this. Everybody knows this.
Yeah.
And I posted, and I was like, dang, girls, like, do these really work? Because I'm dying, and they better work because if not, I'm going to need life or some shit like that, right? And he unfollowed me and blocked me after I posted that, saying that I was showing my pussy to
everybody on the internet.
Everybody on the internet. Yeah. But again, that was his way of control, you know? Him controlling that situation and the narrative and that toxic masculinity, and all stems from his insecurity. I wasn't even showing anything.
Yeah.
I literally had my flannel in between my legs. You know what that's like. You wear flannels around your waist too, no?
Yeah, yeah.
I've seen you before. So you know when the flannel lands right here, it's literally covering like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm glad you brought that up because girls will also, I don't know if you did, but like will try to change their ways for them so they don't feel like that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But
so I dim my light.
Yeah, and so, but what happens is like, okay, you fix that, but then now something else is an issue, and now you got to fix that. Okay, now this is an issue. And you're like, you get to a point where I feel like some girls get to the point where they feel like they can't do anything because everything is making them upset, and they don't want to make them upset, especially like when you get in that brainwash type of area. You're just like, I want him to be happy. Maybe if I delete my social media, he'll be happy, you know, like, so they delete their social media,
me.
You know? And so
that was me,
but it's not the girl's fault, you know, it's his fault. You know, he's going through some issues. He's not very confident in himself. He's not very secure with himself. Cause I remember I dated a girl too, like, beautiful, gorgeous, the most jealous person ever. Like, she was asking me, like, who's this girl liking your post? Who's this girl from, like, a year ago commenting fire emojis before we even started talking? Who's that? How do I know that you're not talking to her anymore? I'm like, what do you want me to do? Like, I was literally afraid to post anything. Like, because I didn't want a girl like something. Forbid.
And
like,
you couldn't explain it. Yeah, God forbid.
If somebody would comment
like,
on
hey,
there,
I
like,
don't know, dude, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, if somebody were to comment on there, oh my God, it was a problem. Like, all of a sudden, it felt like I cheated. Like, like if somebody would, like if a girl would comment, I'm like, what do you want me to do? Like, like.
Dude, I felt like I was cheating when I was going to dinner with my mom. And if I spent more than an hour and a half with her, I felt on edge. I was stressed. Like, stressed because he would tell me, like, there's no fucking way that you're still having dinner with your mom. Like, where the fuck are you at? And, like, all these things. Like, there's no way. Who talks for more than 2 hours?
Yeah.
Like that.
So
I was constantly, like, okay, like, on edge, like, making sure, oh, shit, he texted 2 minutes ago. Fuck, it's been, like, 2 minutes, you know, like.
He's going to
think after some times, and after I, like, was, like, 3 kids later, I'm like, I'm over this shit. Like, I'm not even, I'm over it, you know?
What would you say to a girl that's going through a similar situation, trying to conform herself to that person that no matter what they do, it's always the next thing. It's always something else. It's something different.
I think I could easily tell somebody to leave, and I was going to say that, but I know that it's hard to leave,
yeah.
Right? I get that. I know that it's hard to leave because I didn't even leave after I was cheated on. It took me 2 years to actually leave. So I think what my best advice would be, instead of telling you to leave, because obviously everybody's going to tell you to leave, is to start doing things that allow you to work on yourself and find that self-love, so that when you do find that self-love, you can leave.
Yeah.
So start doing things for you. Start doing things outside of the relationship for yourself, whether that's you start going to therapy, whether that's you start going on walks, whether you start journaling, whether you start reading the Bible, whether you start going to Bible study, whether you start going to church, whether you start hanging out with like a positive group of people here and there, like start feeding your spirit positive things so that you could find that self-love in yourself. Because when you find the self-love is when you have the courage to leave. Because I could tell you all day to leave, and everybody's first question would be like, how?
Yeah.
And that was my fucking question. I couldn't even fucking leave when my husband cheated on me. It took me 2 fucking years. And I begged for him too. Like, and I get it. Like, I was going to tell y'all to leave, but I already knew what was coming after. So I think my best advice is start finding things that will allow you the room to start loving yourself more, to start valuing yourself more, so that you have the courage to leave.
Yeah.
Because that's when you start to choose yourself.
Yeah.
It's when you start loving yourself, then you're like, damn, I'm pretty fucking awesome. Like, what the fuck am I doing here? Like, life is too short. Start practicing gratitude. The more you practice gratitude, the more you're thankful for your day, the more you see the value of your time, the more you see the value and the beauty in life. And you're like, you have all this value and beauty in this life, but then you have this dark side. And you're like, what the fuck am I doing with this dark side? You know, and then you could start to let that shit go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like,
that's my best advice.
and for the fellas who are going through something like that, you know what I mean? Like, you have to accept that something's wrong with you. You know, you're not very confident in yourself. Why are you thinking like that? Why are you thinking she's out cheating when she's clearly not? Why are you thinking that? Because I get it. I understand how other guys are, like when you're out in the bar and stuff like that. But if you take care of your woman the way you're supposed to, she can go out with friends. It can be her and 2 friends in a room full of guys. She would not do anything, you know?
Dude, on my mom, on my life, I never saw a man. I can't recall the time in the entire time that I was married, and it wasn't even in a beautiful marriage or anything, that I saw a man. I can't even remember or visualize a time where I saw a man. And when I actually just made a TikTok about this, but I was saying that the best revenge is no revenge at all, right?
Absolutely.
Like, let God take care of it. And I was saying that I thought about, after the affair, I thought about, like, I'm going to do this shit back to you, you know? I'm going to do this shit back to you. Like, I'm going to make you feel how you made me feel. And then when I would sit back and be like, okay, Jackie, but how? Like, who the fuck? Like, you haven't talked to anybody or looked anybody's way in 10 years, 12, 11 years. Like, where are you going to find somebody to do this with? Like, how are you going to be like, hey, mister, like, do you want to, you know, because I need to get back at my ex-husband, like that. You know, like, what the, like, that's to the point where I was at, and I wasn't even being taken care of and valued.
Yeah.
So now imagine if you're a good man and you value your woman and you protect her, you take care of her, you're her safe space. When she goes out, she for sure is not going to see anybody, because she's like, all y'all, whack. My man got me roses this morning. He did this. He did that. He does this. He does that, you know?
Yeah, and like,
so.
And it could be, fellas, think about it. I know sometimes when you guys go out, you're sitting there trying to flirt with everybody. Like, you're trying to flirt with everybody, even though you know you have a good girl at home. It could be, you know, sometimes when they accuse the other person, or you're accusing that other person, it's because you might be doing something shady yourself, okay? Like, think about it. Let's be honest. Like, I remember when I was doing the same things, okay? And I know how guys act when they go out there. Even I've been out with married guys, and I've seen how you guys act out there. Like, it's, some of you guys act like you're fucking single. Like, so now, like, when your girl wants to go out, now it's a problem. Now you think she's out being shady. Now you think she's doing this. Because why? Because you were being shady. So now you feel like she's going to be the same way just because you were that same way. So we have to become a little bit more secure with ourselves, figure out what our issue is, you know, like why are we thinking like this, you know, because if this is don't put whoever you're with through something like that. Like, oh, you're out cheating. We just went to go get food. Like, you know what I mean? Like, self-awareness
is key.
Yeah, and like me, I was like that a long time ago, but then when you realize that that person is for you and you're confident with yourself and you're just like, oh, like I take care of her, you know, she's cool. I know how she is. She wants to go out and have fun with her friends and dance. Cool. Like I know she's for me. You know, I know she's not going to do anything shady. So that's actually way more. She would go out, come back like after the bars closed, and she'd be like, "Hey, like we did this, awesome." Like you know, like compared to like some guys are like, "She's probably out there cheating. You need to come home. Like, what are you doing? Like, there's probably a shit ton of guys flirting with you. Why? Because you're probably one of those guys when you go out with your boys, flirting with all these girls. Like, that's probably why they don't think of that things like that. You know."
It's very true. So I have a little story. This one's a good one. So my kid's father was like that, right? He was like that with me, very that way. And I never really did anything, to be honest with you. I was always like working on my business. And when I was with him still, my kids were still small, because you think my kids are barely, like, my daughter's barely going to be 5. So 2-3 years ago, she was only 2.
Yeah.
You know, so I wasn't really doing much of anything. But a funny story is that he was always, you know, on the accusing. Obviously, well, he was guilty of the crime. But I have a funny story that recently, like, the girl that he's with is the woman that he had an affair with, right? I don't think they're together right now. But he and her got in a fight over something that I said on my live. I said something on my live where he was like, and this was like a live that I did. It was like 5 hours long, bro. Like, long.
They stayed through the whole thing.
Somewhere in the middle of that live, somebody was like, "Oh, have you thought about like ever getting back with your kid's dad or whatever?" And I was like, you know, sometimes I think about like sliding in his DMs and just like hooking up with him just to get my lick back, you know? You know, just for fun. And I'm like, but then I think about it and I'm like, damn, dude, I'm not even attracted to him. Like, I don't even want to touch him with a 10-foot pole. And then I don't want to open that can of worms because I really don't want anything to do with him. And 2 wrongs don't make a right, you know? So I was like, nah, you know, I always like, and that's all I said. Apparently that caused a problem between us two, right? Obviously, because you're never going to have peace when it's me involved, right?
Yeah.
And so I guess they broke up, and he ends up going to a concert to Rolling Loud. And at Rolling Loud, my ex-sister-in-law was there with one of our mutual friends. I've gone out with this girl, and my ex loves blonde. My blonde loves blonde. And so they broke up on a Friday. He goes on Saturday. Tell me why he tries hooking up with her friend. He tries hooking up with her friend. He follows her on social media. He ends up like, I don't know if he ends up sliding in her DM or not, but he was like, I guess like trying to be around her there. And it's like, you just broke up with this girl that was supposedly the love of your life, who you cheated on me with yesterday. But on Saturday, the next day, you're like sliding in her DMs. And I know her, you know? And my friend's like, I didn't know if I should tell you or not. I was like, girl, this is tea. What you mean? I was like, you need to tell me this stuff. And so she's like, oh, I didn't know. Like, it was, I don't want to say her name. Let's just say her name was Ruby.
Yeah.
It was Ruby. So I didn't want to, like, tell you that it was Ruby. And I was like, girl, I don't care. Like, call her right now. I want to know the tea. And sleeping is that he ended up, like, following her on social media. And nothing ever transpired because she didn't let it. But, like, he was trying to weasel his way. And it's like, dude, you literally broke up with this girl yesterday.
Yeah.
So this pattern continues because it lives inside of you, you know?
Yeah. And
so,
they just
little story.
No, that's great. That's great, T.
I know.
Dude,
that shit was funny for me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's funny because, like, it's funny when people message you, they're like, hey, like, I saw so-and-so with so. I was like, cool. Like, the fuck? Like, we're not together. Like, huge downgrade, but like we're not, you know what I mean? Like, but I've never been super huge into like, oh, who's my ex dating now? Who are they with now? Who are like, the last one, not the last one, but I remember an ex, she was claiming how great she was to her man. And I was like, I still have screenshots of when you were trying to hook up with me when you guys were dating. I was like, so you need to chill the fuck out, like with your, I'm so amazing with him and
he's everything.
Yeah, and I was like,
that's another thing, dude. When people are posting and saying like all this extra shit and writing like entire narratives about their relationship, some shit ain't adding up.
Yeah, because
some shit ain't adding up.
When she messaged me and I was like, she's like, hey, what are you doing? And I was like, the fuck, you know, because she ended up messaging because I blocked her with my personal account. She ended up messaging me through like a different account that I have. And I was like, the fuck? And she's like, what are you doing? I was like, chilling. I'm like, why? And she's like, you want to meet up? And I'm like, don't you have a man? What man? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I guess you don't have one. So
Culano de tal.
I mean, shout out to, I'm not going to say who it is, but yeah, we met up. Like, yeah, we met up, we hooked up. Like, and the next day they were great. Like, back to being like, oh, we're amazing, you know, like so on and so forth.
The most beautiful couple in the world.
Oh, they were amazing. They still are to the day, maybe. I don't know. But guys, if you guys are going through issues like that, don't push that on your girl. Don't accuse her of things like that. Don't try to also control her. Just like you need your guy time, girls need to hang out with girls. They need their girl time. They want to hang out with their friends because there's a certain way that you can talk to your friends and stuff like that that you just can't be with your partner, if that makes sense. Like, you guys just vibe differently. You know, of course, the person that you're with, it should be your best friend, and you should also be able to vibe with them. But it's different. Me hanging out with a girl than me hanging out with my buddies that I've known for years. You know, like it's a whole different vibe. It's a whole different like social experience. But just
I also want to. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, it's okay for you. Don't get me wrong. It's okay for guys to go have their guy night. Go have your guy night, but be responsible. Meaning, like, if you're out there flirting and stuff like that, it's gonna make you think that your girl's doing the same thing when she goes out with her friends. Okay, so just be aware of that. Like, so if you don't want to feel like that, maybe you should stop doing it. Like, I'm just saying.
Yes, and I just want to speak to the girls really quick too. Don't make it the man's responsibility to heal the wounds that somebody else made, and not allow him to also be himself and have friendships and relationships with other people outside of you. Maybe not girls, but like have friendships and like have his own life because you're wounded from somebody else's betrayals or lies or etc. It's nobody's responsibility to fix you but your own. You need to fix yourself and not carry that on to the next relationship and punish the guy that you're with for that. And let's say he's a good guy and he just wants to like have a good time with his friends. Don't sabotage a good relationship with a person just because you have unhealed things. And don't expect somebody else to heal them. It's nobody's responsibility but your own to fix those things.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Period.
Because,
and that applies to both.
Yeah, that I was about to say that it applies to both because at the end of the day, you have to heal yourself. Nobody you get with is going to do that for you. If you're expecting to get with somebody and they're going to somehow make you happy, it's not going to happen. You know, that's why I always like when people think they go through a tough relationship, they think getting married is going to fix the problem. Doesn't fix the problem. They think having a kid is going to fix the problem. Doesn't fix the problem. You know, it's more that there's things that you have to figure out on your own too. Like, and I'm not expecting whoever I'm talking to, like if I have my issues, I'm not expecting her to fix them. You know, nobody's going to fix them but me. So I got to do what I need to do to fix my problems. And that should be for everybody. If you're having issues with, if you need to realize when you're being controlling, you need to realize when you're being wrong, being insecure. Maybe it's, you know, take a look in the mirror. Like, are you confident with yourself? If she goes out, how many times do you think that she's messing around with another guy? How many times do you think that she's flirting with another guy? Yeah, of course, if girls are beautiful, a guy's going to, if she's not wearing a ring, he's going to be like, hey, girl, like, what's up? You have to be confident enough to know that she's going to be like, hey, no, thank you. I'm in a relationship. Hey, I'm married, you know, or something like that. Like, you have to be confident.
You know what? And I'm going to be honest with you too. I mean, not to like toot my own horn or anything, but like, I know that I'm attractive, right? Like, I know going out I'm attractive or whatever the case may be. But to be honest with you, because of the way that I present myself and because of the way that I carry myself when I'm outside, I don't really get approached like that. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't really have all this, maybe people look, but I don't have all this like left and right attention because I'm not welcoming to everybody's attention. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
and I feel like you should know that about your partner too. Like, just because a woman is attractive or a man is attractive doesn't mean that a million people are flocking to them if they're not carrying themselves that way. And I'm single, and I easily could carry myself in a way that I'm like inviting, but I don't. I go outside because I want to decompress.
Yeah.
I go outside because I want to take a breather. I want to enjoy my time outside. If somebody approaches me, cool. But it's not like this thing where there's like 30 guys, 20. Like it's just.
That's what some guys think is like.
They're not inviting.
Yeah, some guys think that the girl goes out and all of a sudden there's like 50 guys around her and she's giving each one of them attention, because what happens, like we talked about earlier, like some of these guys go out in groups and then all that entire group is trying to flirt with these girls and stuff like that. It's because you're doing it, bro. Like that's why why you're feeling like that, because you're doing it. So you automatically think that guys are approaching your girl when you're out. And so it's not like that. It's especially like you start learning, it's way more peaceful, like peace of mind when you know that the girl's with you and she's like, oh, hey, I'm going to go do this. Cool. Like I remember when I was talking to this girl, she's like, hey, we're going to go hang out and do this. Cool. Venmo'd her some money. I was like, here, buy a round on me. And, she's like, oh, shit, thank you. She was like, that was weird. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, guys aren't normally like that. They're usually like, who you going with? How long you going to be out?
Trying to fight.
Yeah, and start arguments and stuff. And she told me the last guy she talked to, the guy showed up because of where they were at. There was no service. And so the guy was like wondering how come she's not responding.
She's not answering.
And I was like, well, you probably were talking to a little boy, but I'm a confident human being. So here's some money, take a shot, have a good time, message me if you need anything. I'm always like, hey, like if you need anything, feel free to call me. I'll come pick you up, so on and so forth. Like I got you, but not the other way around. The other way around is, trust me, that's so stressful. Like, what is she doing? Is she out talking to somebody else? Is she doing this? Like, you can't.
I couldn't.
You can't even enjoy your own night.
No, you have to be secure that you're doing everything you're supposed to be, and just trust that if somebody does something behind your back or lies to you, that the truth will always come to light. Whether it's in 1 week, whether it's in 2 months, 3 months, a year, however long it takes, the truth will always come to light. And you're not a fool for any of that.
No.
That's not your responsibility. If somebody does something behind your back, that's what they did, and that's what they have to live with. And you can stand firm in the fact that you were true to the relationship yourself, and that's the only thing that matters.
Exactly. Because I feel like way too many people stress out over that, and I'm glad that I was able. I don't know how. I'm not gonna tell somebody, oh, do this exactly, but you just have to fix your own self. Love yourself, fix yourself, figure out what's triggering you to think these ways or be like that, and then try to fix it from there. Even if that requires you getting help. If you need to get help, then that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing, you're not going to seem less of a man because of it. So don't be ever afraid to feel like just because you want to go get some therapy, counseling, whatever the case may be, like it's okay. Like you're trying to figure yourself out. That way you can be the best person to whoever you're with or whoever you're going to be with, like me, whoever I talk to next, I hope she has an amazing experience with me. None of my exes, I'll tell you that right now. None of my exes right now will say I was a horrible boyfriend. I'll tell you that right now. Okay, I'm pretty cool.
Call them.
So
drop your numbers.
Just drop your numbers.
I'm like, Hannah goes down there. Find me. Let me know.
They probably creep. I'm gonna put them on. They probably creep on my stuff. I'm not gonna lie. Like I was doing a live the other day, and I thought I had blocked my ex on there. And you know how sometimes it shows the names? I happened to look when her name popped up. And I'm like, what the fuck? Is that her? And I kind of clicked on the profile and it popped up and it showed her picture. I was like, what the fuck are you doing in my live? You know what I mean? And she's just steady in there chilling, like
here's Johnny.
She's just chilling. And you could tell if you were on the live, I was like, cause I was shocked that she jumped in. I was like,
you got startled. Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck? And then afterwards I was like, all right, I gotta go. Jumped off, clicked on her name and blocked her. I was like, the fuck are you jumping on my lives for? Like I don't need that energy.
You really are a blocker.
Oh, I'm 100% blocker because if it didn't work out between us, I wish nothing for the best for you. Like I hope you kill it. I hope you do amazing things, but we don't need to be friends. We don't need to see what each other is doing. Like our time in life has ended, we went our separate ways, and I'm okay with blocking people because whoever I'm talking to next, I don't want them to be like, he's still following his ex. He's still I saw he accidentally, how you sometimes accidentally like somebody's post because you're just scrolling. And then, you accidentally like somebody's post and then all of a sudden, why do you like his ex's post? I don't want to go through all that, because I did it before and just trying to explain those conversations. I'm like, you know what? fuck this, I'm blocking them. You know, like there's no reason.
Draining combos.
Oh, it's a draining convo because I think it comes back to some girls are also insecure with themselves, not confident with themselves, so they think that you're automatically, or maybe it happened to them before too. Like they were talking to somebody, and the person they were talking to continued to talk to their ex, so now they think every guy they talk to, if they follow their ex or anything like that, now they're doing the same thing. You know, which wasn't the case. Like I would never give an ex a second chance. I would never talk to an ex again. If I see him in passing, I'm not a rude person. I'll say hi. I'll be like, hey, what's up? I'm like, that's it. I'm not gonna be like, hey, you miss me?
Yeah.
Like, what's up?
Hey, girl.
But I mean, we've been going for almost 2 hours.
All right.
You know, I want to thank you for taking the time sitting here and chatting with me. Hopefully, if that podcast ever comes out, I would love to watch it just to see where he comes from. Just because he seemed like such an asshole based off the.
I'm gonna send it to you after this. I'm gonna send you his page after this. I didn't even think that I'd even send it to you, but I'll send it to you.
Yeah, I didn't know who it was because, and I wasn't gonna poke at it. I was gonna be like, well, who is it? But I was like, maybe she doesn't want to say who it is. Cool, that's fine.
No, I think it's because you were out. You were out of town, remember? And I was like, I'm not even gonna message him no more.
Yeah, I was. I was on my way to get lit. That's where I was. But anyways,
it's my business.
Hopefully we can, you know, do these more often. I always have a great time chatting with you, and people love it when we sit here and chat and you know, get a male's perspective and a guy's perspective on some of the things that we talk about. So thank you again for jumping on. If you guys haven't followed her podcast, she does amazing. She had some great episodes over there. She's cried in some episodes. Like it's great. You know, they get emotional and there's a lot of good information. It's Take a Sip podcast, right?
Yes.
And she has it all linked in her bios and stuff. If you guys don't know who Jackie is yet, stop living under a rock. Okay?
Where have you been?
Where have you been? If you're following me and you don't know who Jackie is, like, where have you been? Like, come on. But anyways, thank you guys again for listening. Thank you, Jackie, for jumping on again. And hopefully we'll catch you guys on the next one. So anyways, see you guys.
Self-respect when you out of line.